From wherever you're watching us across the country and beyond, good evening and welcome to the Daily Report. Well, if it's Tuesday, you know it's all about the People's Court, and tonight we've got a rather different program. We will blend our conversation both here in studio and further in Nyeri County. Now, on Saturday last year, Kenyans were counting hours to participate in a democratic process provided for in Article 38 of the Constitution. Article 38 states that every citizen is free to make political choices. Every citizen has the right to free, fair and regular elections based on universal suffrage and the free expression of the will of the electors. Every adult citizen has the right, without unreasonable restrictions, to be registered as a voter, to vote by secret ballot in any election or referendum. The elective positions in Kenya involve representing the people at the national and at the county level. Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya states that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. Tonight on the People's Court, we take stock of the last 1 year, having a total of 1,882 leaders, that is from the president, 47 governors, 47 senators, 47 women representatives, 290 members of the National Assembly, and 1,450 members of county assemblies. We will ask the crucial questions. Welcome to the program. My name is George Maringa, and as always, I am not alone, as is every Tuesday. Linda Alela is on the other side of the studio, while Victor Muyakane will be joining us live from Nyeri County, the region that has played host to the president and his delegation. Linda, over to you.
Well, indeed, George Maringa, the democratic process in Kenya has been described as one of the heaviest. Since 6 elective posts are filled in one day. And across the country tonight, we delve deeper at a tune of about 44.6 billion Kenya's general elections held in 2022. Among the most, of course, this is amongst the most expensive in the world. And this means then that for the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, to have conducted the exercise, it could have involved about 22 million people, registered voters. Essentially, of course, we spent about 2,000 shillings per voter. And on set here, of course, this night, we'll be speaking to Honorable Derito Mureithi, who is the former governor of Laikipia County, as well as the Honorable nominated Senator Gloria Oroba, who, of course, will be discussing this. And, of course, we'll definitely also get to engage you on Twitter. We have put up a poll. Are you satisfied with the leaders you elected in August 2022? I'll be sure to channel your feedback, and we shall be sure to as well throw these questions to our very own guests. And for now, I want to take you to the county of Nyeri, where our very own Victor Muyakane Victor is on standby, or I am actually being told that we will be, oh yes, Victor is on standby, as you can evidently see, prepared for us, and of course sitting with an audience of the people of Nyeri County who overwhelmingly voted for the president. Victor Muyakane, good evening, and what have you prepared for us on the other side?
Right, thank you so much, George. Thank you, Linda. I am joining you from Nyeri County right here, from the lovely Ruare Central Hotel, where we will be bringing you this version or this edition of the People's Court. We have the people ready. My name is Victor Muyakane. I'm so happy to be here and so happy to connect with the people of Nyeri and the people of the mountain. We are getting ready to bring you all the views and reviews that we have from this neck of the woods. Right now, Nyeri is a headquarters of the Sagana State Lodge, where lots of politics have been happening over there. And it just seems right that tonight we're talking about politics 1 year on after the elections. But also, it feels like Nyeri County is a headquarters of coal at this particular point. I am envious, absolutely jealous at that warm, cozy studio that you guys have on the other side. I hope you can transmit some of that warmth to me right here, because I tell you, I am positively freezing. But once more, it's going to be an absolute blast of a show. We've got two leaders here who've got a lot to say, who've got a finger on the pulse of the nation, at least the pulse of their people, and they'll be able to give you their views and reviews, their insights. We also have a crowd, a warm crowd, despite the cold environment, who are ready to connect with you on the People's Court tonight.
Indeed, thank you so much. Quite a jam-packed bulletin we have for you, and the program The People's Court right here on TV47, especially on the Daily Report. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Catherine Simaloy. But before that important conversation, here are some of our top stories making headlines tonight. Tonight, President William Ruto dishes out more promises to residents of the vote-rich Mount Kenya region. This as opposition leaders from the region threw barbs at him, saying he is relaunching already complete projects. Inspector General of Police Japheth Koome faces off with Azimio over deaths of protesters during anti-government protests. And on our special piece tonight, we highlight how a section of residents from Wajir County are slowly venturing into crop farming as effects of climate change become more severe.
In my hand are bounties of what our earth can produce.
Once again, it is a pleasure to have you join us on the broadcast. Ahead of the bipartisan talks, the Azimio la Umoja coalition, led by Raila Odinga, has put forth a fresh set of demands that stand in contrast to those of the Kenya Kwanza faction. These demands include an audit of the August 2022 elections, a decrease in the cost of living, a reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC), greater involvement of the IEBC in national matters, and a call for enhanced respect for political parties. Paul Kirobi provides further insight into these developments.
The Azimio la Umoja coalition led by Raila Odinga has fronted key issues that need to be addressed during the imminent bipartisan talks in what appears to be a renewed call. Raila Odinga is advocating for several changes, including an audit of the August 2022 general elections, a reduction in the cost of living, and a reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC).
1. Cost of living. 2. Audit of the 2022 presidential election results. 3. Restructuring and reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission and related matters.
However, the Azimio la Umoja brigade has interpreted Kenya Kwanza's demands with suspicion. These demands, intended for discussion in the bipartisan talks, are seen by the brigade as requiring constitutional amendments.
These guys are talking of 2/3 gender rule, leader of opposition. Hiyo ingine nini wanasema? Hiyo mambo yote wanasema para CDF. Those are things that require constitutional amendment. Na mimi yangu ni kuwaomba Wakenya wasidanganywe. Kama kuna amendment ya katiba wanataka kufanya, wasipitie hii bipartisan talks. Iwe bombers, Wakenya waongee wote.
In contrast to Azimio's stance, the Kenya Kwanza advocates for the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) Commissioner Selection Panel. They also prioritize achieving the 2/3 gender rule in the National Assembly and the incorporation of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. The anticipated negotiations between the two major coalitions are set to commence on Wednesday, marked by a tug-of-war dynamic. Yet uncertainty looms over whether Kenya Kwanza's members of parliament will agree to certain demands presented during the talks.
That it is these issues of the cost of living that the Kenya Kwanza administration do not want discussed and tackled at the bipartisan talks.
Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Paul, for that. President William Ruto's tour in Mount Kenya region entered day 4 today, a tour that has involved the commissioning of different development projects in the region. But the tour, which the ruling coalition has stated is a developmental one, has been termed by leaders from the Azimio coalition as one that is meant to dupe residents of the region. The tour that started on Saturday and will run through Wednesday. Chichi Josephine tells us more.
For the 4th day, President William Ruto was in the Mount Kenya region, opening a revamped new KCC plant at Kiganjo in Kieni constituency. But arguably, the highlight was the first cabinet meeting held by Kenya Kwanza outside Nairobi. The president's team proposing several key points changes to the sugar sector, social welfare and agriculture sector, among others. Right alone in the meeting with Mount Kenya opinion leaders, the president and his team taking a chance to take pot shots at their political opponents, even as Kenyans and the international community wait to see the outcome of the imminent talks between the government and the opposition. As the president embarked on the tour of the region, the Azimio coalition has characterized Ruto's intentions as an attempt to deceive the region. They argue that the majority of the projects being highlighted were actually executed by the county governments, thus suggesting that Ruto's plan is an attempt to mislead the Mount Kenya communities.
Launching projects, some of which were completed more than 2 years ago by the government of President Uhuru, including the Keno Marwa Road, which, as you all know, was practically complete by the time of the general election.
The president's schedule in the Mount Kenya region for the last day involves commissioning Nakuru Hospital, Kieni constituency, launch of affordable housing project at Kishugu town, Gishugu constituency, commissioning of Karimenu water project at Ngoigwa, Thika town constituency, and the launch of affordable house project in Thika town constituency. Chichi Josephine, TV 47.
Thank you, Chichi, for that. A few hours after Inspector General of Police made a controversial statement, Azimio leaders led by Raila Odinga have issued a statement saying police brutality during protests should be condemned. The police IG, Japhet Koome, said the leaders took dead bodies from the mortuary and placed them in strategic points during demonstrations, which led to the public to believe that police killed protesters. This comes amidst talks between the opposition and the government in order to prevent another wave of protests.
Azimio One coalition leader Raila Odinga has now condemned a statement by IG Japhet Koome regarding deaths during demonstrations.
It is actually very disappointing to see a statement from Inspector General of Police, Mr. Koome, saying that we hired dead bodies to accuse police of brutality.
Koome had claimed that politicians were now compromising rogue mortuary staff by hiring bodies which were later used as props to change the image of the police service. Azimio leaders have, however, said that post-mortem exercises were conducted on the bodies and the cause of death determined.
I can confirm that police killed and wounded many Kenyans. It should never have happened. It should never have happened again.
Raila has added that the culprits will be brought to book, saying police should not use force while dispersing peaceful and unarmed demonstrators.
And more importantly, we will do whatever it takes to ensure justice for the victims. We will ensure the perpetrators of these crimes pay.
Vera Alberta, TV 47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Vera, for that. A 74-year-old German national who was found guilty of child pornography and child trafficking has been sentenced to 81 years in prison. The accused, Thomas Scheller, who was charged in 2020, was found guilty on all 6 counts, and elsewhere a pastor who was convicted for defiling two minors aged 9 years ago has been sentenced to 50 years in prison. The court sentenced James Njuguna to serve 50 years imprisonment and in the first count and 20 years in the second count, but ruled that both sentences will be served concurrently.
According to trial magistrate Caroline Jangi, the prosecution proved beyond reasonable doubt that the accused was guilty of child pornography and trafficking. The court found the accused guilty in all 6 counts. In count 1, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison for an offense of child trafficking, whereas in counts 2 and 3, he was sentenced to 15 years each.
In count 4, 5, and 6, he had been charged with the offenses of child pornography. Serve 7 years imprisonment in each count 4, 5, and 6.
Elsewhere, a pastor who was convicted for defiling two minors aged 11 and 14 years 9 years ago has been sentenced to 50 years in prison. The court was told that Pastor James Juguna used to tell the minors that the fluid was the blood of Jesus entering and cleansing them.
In count 1, the accused person is sentenced to serve 50 years imprisonment. In count 2, the accused person is sentenced to serve 20 years imprisonment. The sentences will run concurrently, right of appeal 14 days, and the accused person will be entered into the convicted sexual offences register.
The offence were committed between the 24th of December 2014 and the 7th of January 2015. Zainab Mohammed, T47.
Now, detectives in Nakuru have launched investigations over a shooting incident where a police officer allegedly shot dead his senior sergeant after an argument over duty allocation earlier Tuesday morning. The two are said to have been on duty at the Rift Valley Regional K9 Police Unit headquarters during the incident. According to Nakuru County Police Commander Jackson Konga, is said to have used a Seska pistol to execute his senior Christopher Kimeli, and he is currently under police custody to pave way for investigation of the shooting, whose reason has not been ascertained. This has happened at a time when cases of mental health among police officers are escalating across the country.
Around 5, it was reported by one of our officers who had had a gunshot that one sergeant by the name Kimeli had been shot by one of his colleagues, a police constable by the name Konga. The cause of shooting is not yet known. We are yet to find out what actually transpired that led the Constable Konga to shoot his supervisor. Jackson Konga, the other one is Christopher Kimeli, the deceased, the sergeant. Yeah. Konga was on duty. Konga was on duty. Kimeli was also on duty, but he had actually signed off. He was heading to somewhere to pick his child from a certain school. So he actually had just signed off duty. He was the duty officer of that particular formation, K9 formation. Yeah, we are yet to find out. Actually, we can't speculate for as at now his character, whether he was drunk or not. But what I can confirm is we disarmed him and he's already under custody here in Nakuru police station. Yeah, but we don't have much. Actually, the investigation are underway, so we don't want to speculate that maybe he was drunk, he was this. No, we don't want to speculate that.
To our special feature tonight, accessing clean water remains a daunting task for people living in arid and semi-arid lands, with many bearing the brunt of water challenges as a result of climate change. Our reporter Sheila Chelangat visited Wajir North and filed this story of the hardships that women there face in their attempt to survive despite promises of getting boreholes sunk to ease their burdens. Take a look.
Dry air, dusty roads and howling winds welcomes us to Lansayu area in Wajir North constituency, and residents say the cold season has begun. The weather condition would otherwise be harsher. Lansayu is a small village that sits under these rocks, playing host to the Ajuran clan of the Somali community. These beautiful rocks making quite a statement on the scenery here. This village has not received rains for a long time. The months of June, July and August are considered the most dry here. Water levels drop to minimum levels, causing acute water shortages during the dry season. This has forced residents to travel several miles in search of water, with women and children bearing the greatest responsibility. They say it has been a while since this shallow dam was full to the brim. And since water from this shallow dam cannot be consumed, their search leads them up this dangerously steep rock. Dahira Abdi Karim is one of the many women who have walked for 3 kilometers here today, and she has with her 6 jerrycans, one jerrycan after the other. She goes up this rock. These older boys help fetch the water. Not so clean to the eye, but it is what is available. This water accumulated here during the rainy season, and it is quickly drying up. Now it is time to ferry them down, and one after the other, she cautiously descends.
The drought was here with us, and before we were using water bowsers. We even could go to Buna to fetch water, which is about 50 kilometers from here. 3 people have lost their lives here. Others have fallen down and gotten injured. The government should sink boreholes here, or better still, pump down the water.
Others, like Farhia, also share the same worries as Dahira's.
Fear for my life, but I have to go up that rock for water because I do not have another option.
Despite being close to a shallow water dam, both say they cannot use its water.
Water is used for livestock only because they cannot climb up this rock. There was a time there was a cholera outbreak for people who consumed this water.
For now, this water will last Dahira at least 2 days before she is back here for more. So she sets off home. The water scarcity problem is also faced by hospitals in the area. This one, for instance, is adjacent to this shallow dam, but still lacks this precious liquid.
Maji Buna sub-county nzima, maji borehole ni moja ambaye ina supply town nzima. Sasa kitu kama hospitali tunapewa siku 2, siku 3 tunakosa.
Wajir County is home to over 350 boreholes, shallow dams and mega water pans. This constituency, however, continues to lag behind with only about 3 water pans, according to the area member of parliament, Ibrahim Saneh.
Quite often, we sink and then we go into losses. We don't really get productive wells.
The consolidated sedimentary and limestone rocks in Wajir exhibit substantial and promising groundwater potential, and successful boreholes here tap the more permeable zone. But inland Sayu, it is different.
Predominantly, this soil down is a rock, I believe. And hardly do we find an aquifer that is productive to give us underground water. So the underground water potential is poor.
For now, this community continues to bear the brunt of water challenges worsened by climate change-induced droughts in the area.
This is the hassle that residents here face to get clean water for use at home. And for close to 3 kilometers, they will push this jerrycan like this until they get home. Sheila Chelangat for TV47 in Leisayu, Wajir North.
Thank you, Sheila, for that report. Kenya has become a major power producer with its geothermal power plant now providing a third of the country's electricity, which creates electricity from the earth's heat. In this regard, state-owned geothermal development company GDC has discovered a 22 megawatts geothermal well at Parker Hills, Baringo County, placing the country on the pathway to affordable, reliable and green energy. Our very own Chichi Josephine visited the site and filed the following report.
In the heart of the Great Rift Valley in Tiati constituency, Baringo County, lies Parker Hills. With an estimated terrain elevation above sea level of 1,622 meters, geothermal activity is widespread here. Here, another 22 megawatts geothermal well has been discovered by the state-owned geothermal development company GDC.
We've just witnessed the opening of well number 8, or where we've just come from, and that well is discharging at an average of what would otherwise be 22 megawatts.
The discovery now placing the country on the pathway to affordable, reliable and green energy.
We can see Kenya being energy secure. We can see the cost of energy in Kenya coming down significantly. We can see Kenya being a very attractive destination for global firms who want greening of their products.
This one, including another 13 wells in total within the Parker Hills field, brings GDC's geothermal production in the region to 70 megawatts, raising prospects of green and affordable power generation from the area.
As we develop more of this kind of power, the average cost of power in Kenya is coming down, and it will come down significantly.
The average power to Mwananchi is about 22 US cents. So if we can duplicate these projects at about 7 US cents, several of them, we can actually bring the cost of power down.
Cabinet Secretary for Energy and Petroleum Davis Chirchir described the resource as significant in bringing Kenya closer to lowering the cost of power, announcing that the government will issue tenders to the investors to convert the steam into affordable electricity by the end of the year.
We want to bring more private investors to support GDC on a PPP kind of framework and be able to have a guarantee, or the guarantee that they will convert the steam to power.
The CS spoke when presiding over the opening of the well, where he noted that completion of independent power producers will address one of the biggest challenges the energy sector faces.
The generators who would be coming to Paka to convert this energy to convert this steam to energy is probably not government. It's probably going to be IPPs. And I can tell you the cost will be at 6 cents, 7 cents, maybe 5 cents.
The development raises Kenya's industrialization prospects in Baringo and is a step towards achieving energy security anticipated to save on drilling time and costs within the Paka geothermal field.
This region is far-flung from the county, and it's one of, people will call it a neglected region. But we thank GDC for what they have done, for opening up the area through roads, infrastructural development in terms of education and the support.
The transmission company is also preparing to set up a 197-kilometer Losok-Lesos line in neighboring regions that will transmit electricity from power plants at Paka Hills.
The reason why we brought the two MDs together today is to ensure that we plan well. We ensure that by 2026, 2027, 2028, moving forward, we do have ready lines to evacuate power that will be generated from Paka.
Besides Paka Hills, GDC is also developing Silali and Korosi in Baringo County, Soswa in Narok and Kajiado counties. This is a clear indication that Kenya is making milestones in the quest for clean energy. In Africa, Kenya is ahead of the pack in the realization of sustainable development goals on clean energy. Reporting for TV 47 from Paka Hills in Baringo County, my name is Chichi Josephine.
Thank you, Chichi, for that story, which leads us to a break right here on the Daily Report. But remember, we still have business and sports coming your way, as well as that important conversation on the People's Court. It is important to mention that the former governor for Laikipia, that is Honorable Derito Muredi, is already in the building. You want to stand by for that conversation, and we shall also be crossing over to Nyeri a little bit later on. So do stay with us right here on the Daily Report. We are back in a few minutes.
Imagine with 200 bob only, you can be your own landlord. Yes, everyone now.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for. That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 1 kamili na kuendelea.
kutoka eneo hili la Naivasha kwenye kaunti 032, gatuzi la Nakuru.
Kutoka kaunti ya Elgeyo Marakwet, kaunti 028.
Nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Wajir.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Turukana. Kwa matukio yote yanayojiri katika kaunti hii 012.
Kutoka kaunti nambari 1, kaunti ya Mombasa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Lamu.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka Kisii County.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Machakos.
Kutoka kaunti hii ya Trans Nzoia.
Kaunti 038.
Kutoka gatuzi nambari 029, kaunti ya Nandi, chemichemi ya mabingwa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Kakamega.
Itakuwa nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Bungoma.
Jina langu ni Paula Munio.
Willy Dennis Jiru.
Fabian Kibet.
Mimi ni Hashim Jimal.
Mimi ni Kitio Mika Masai. John Javakiania.
Jina langu ni Abdulaziz Nameka.
Mimi ni Kombo Alfayo.
Jina langu ni Nicholas Mbai.
Isaac Famba.
Mimi ni Wanji Sosti.
Jina langu ni Arnold Adidi.
Jina langu ni Chris Bet.
Jina langu ni Violet Auma.
Na TV47 inapotamba, mimi Sheila Chelangat nitakuwa nikiripotia maswala yanayokuhusu wewe kila kuchao. Every Thursday, 7:30
performance of a business. The Kenya Bureau of Statistics has, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBS, has now partnered with CASNEB for a curriculum program dubbed Certified Quality Professional CQP program. Now that will transformation of standards and quality assurance. This as educational stakeholders urge the government to re-evaluate the proposed funding model to which the Management University of Africa, Professor Washington Okeyo says will help foster skills development and innovation for all Kenyans.
When you look at Europe, intra-European trade, 27 countries trading together, 70% of all products sold and consumed within Europe are made within Europe. When you go to Asia, India, China, and others, 45%. Intra-Africa trade is 15%. So, of all the trade we do, 55 of us, the volume of African trade and products going around is only 15%. So we are doing more business with China, we are doing more business with India, and there's nothing wrong with that, than with our neighbors.
If you look at the curriculum for CQP, we have ingrained a lot of the requirements, the international standards that are supposed to be implemented in this quality sector. We have considered all that, the international requirements, the national standards that should be implemented. And those are some of the things we are training as the modules.
A lot of universities abroad are actually surviving on these partnerships and collaborations. And they're very strong. And the partnerships and collaborations are not only limited to, for example, private sector only. It is even with the government, okay? Because if you go to the universities abroad, most of those private universities there are actually the sources of innovations for the government. The government partners with them to come up with systems and equipment and so on and so forth, which then are used in the government departments to provide goods and services to the government.
Now, Kenya Power has come out to dismiss allegations of inflating power prices, saying that only approved base tariffs, levies and taxes are applied to the consumption to compute the customer's monthly bill. The power distributor says that part of power system losses are inevitable during transmission and distribution of power. Therefore, the regulator sets a threshold for the allowable system losses that is factored in the tariff. The surcharges, which ranges around 20%, has been been dismissed by Kenya Power as charges allowed by the regulator. However, the Electricity Consumers Society of Kenya have demanded such charges should not be incurred by the consumer, and the government must find a means of offsetting its Kenya Power, of offsetting it. Business downtime now for sports news with Dennis Otieno. Good evening, Dennis. What do you have for us from the sports desk?
Well, good evening to George Maringa. Now, tonight we have a lot lined up for you in the world of sports. We shall be telling you how Kenyan athletes performed at the Commonwealth Youth Games. Also, the national levels of the Kenya Secondary School Games kicked off earlier today. We will be telling you the results registered, those among many sports stories lined up for you and coming right up. A very warm welcome to Primetime Sports. My name is Dennis Otieno. Now let's start off with matters athletics. Young Kenyan athletes Tuesday morning registered good results in different sports disciplines at the 2023 Commonwealth Youth Games in Trinidad and Tobago. In the women's 1,500-meter race, Janet Chepkoech dominated Heat 1, while her compatriot Nancy Cherop won Heat 2 of the category to qualify into the finals of the race. Meanwhile, Josephat Sang and Andrew Kipto qualified into the men's 1,500-meter finals after winning their respective heats, as cyclists Daniel Kiptala and Billy Graham finished 14th and 15th respectively in the cycling competition. In the women's rugby, Team Kenya rallied to a 48-0 win over hosts Trinidad and Tobago. However, suffered a similar fate to their easy opponents by losing 45-0 to Australia.
Kwanza kabisa nataka nimshukuru Mungu kwa sababu amenilinda, ametuongoza kutoka Kenya mpaka tumefika hii Trinidad. Na tumeonyesha kuwa tunaweza shinda kesho. Kila mtu amewin kwa hit yake. Kesho tunaingia finali. Sisi wote wa Kenya walikuwa kila mtu amebeba hit yake.
Vijana wanaendelea vyema. Nilichua ya kwamba temperature ya hapa ni kati ya 26 centigrade hadi 32. So kwa upande wetu, kwa sababu Kenya ni high altitude, Nairobi ni high altitude na hapa ni low altitude. So unajua wakati tulipokuwa tukienda Karura, nilikuwa natafuta ile hewa nzuri, kwa sababu hapa mahali kuna joto, utachua ya kwamba ukitrain high altitude alafu kuja pande hii utakuwa umeaccumulate ile tunasema red hemoglobin ambao inasaidia kuweka oxygen.
Now, Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang Tuesday morning officially opened the national levels of the Kenya Secondary School Games at the Kakamega Boys High School as he instructed organizers and officials at the event to uphold integrity. Speaking during the opening ceremony of the Games, Kipsang emphasized on the importance of clean sports in the Games that will have an impact on the future generation of Kenya's sportsmen and women who will earn their accolades fairly and deservedly. Day one of the Games saw Kakamega County football giants Shanderema humbling Wajir County's Horof Harar with an 8-0 thrashing. A similar result posted by St. Anthony's Kitale in their match against Matiliko. Meanwhile, in girls football, Madira Girls defeated Mbitini 7-0 as Wieta Girls Kitale secured a 2-1 win over Luak Girls.
Agorosar is a tough team. I respect them, just like this team imecheza nayo. All of them have qualified. They are champions just like us. So we shall just see how the match will come. Ni watu hatujui na wanacheza, hatujawaona. Ile vile watakuja, we shall handle the way wamekuja. Okay, Shanderema, hii timu naiona hapa leo, ijaanza jana, nijaanza leo. Hii timu ilianza form 1. Mwanafunzi akija form 1, akuja trials ya soka, anakuja na original birth certificate. Unaangalia kama miaka hii mtoto anaweza cheza paka form 3 ama form 4. So mimi kitu nimeweka msingi Akiingia form 1 anakuja na birth certificate original na confirm KCPE, that is the certificate alitumia kuregister mtihani. Ndio kitu imenisaidia kufikia saa hii.
Ministry also through the CS has a team of the scouts which is on ground trying to scout the talents just to ensure that we spot the talents, and those talents are going to be rooted out from the games that are going to happen all through up to Saturday, just to ensure that through the Talanta Hela initiative, those talents can be spotted and tapped into, and ensure that those talents give something to those young men and women.
Now, National Super League side Rainbow FC Monday afternoon, or rather Tuesday afternoon, secured a 3-1 win over Nairobi City Stars in the Elite Pre-Season Cup tie at the M-Pesa Foundation Academy grounds, Thika. Rainbow FC started the match strongly and took an early lead through Tyrone Karaoke's 5th-minute goal before Ali Salim produced a fine solo effort by slicing through Nairobi City Stars' defense to slot home the second goal in the 55th minute. Salim was then fouled in the box to win Rainbow FC a penalty that was calmly slotted into the bottom right corner by Abdul Rama Mohamed in the hour mark as Ronnie Kola managed to pull one back for Simba wa Nairobi in the 88th minute from the penalty spot. The Elite Pre-Season Cup tournament, which consists of 7 teams, saw Posta Rangers defeating Sofapaka 2-0, while Kariobangi Sharks also secured a 2-0 win over Kajiado FC.
Kuwapa goli la kwanza Ronnie Kola. Nzuri sana hiyo, kitu kinajaa ndani ya
Yango Kevin. Jaribu kupiga kule.
And still on matters football in the country, Football Kenya Federation, FKF's initiative of promoting youth and women's football in the country continued Tuesday morning as 30 participants, including 5 teachers, embarked on a CAF-D coaching course in Embakasi Central. The course aims at empowering grassroots level of youth and women's football by equipping educators with the necessary skills to nurture young talent effectively. The teachers recognize that honing their coaching abilities will play a crucial role in shaping the budding football stars, as their involvement directly contributes to the realization of the broader goal set by the FIFA Football for Schools and Women's Football campaign programs. The course is under the tutelage of FKF instructors Bernard Kawinzi and George Mwangi and will run for the next 10 days.
For me, sports is a passion which I've been pursuing for a long time. But apart from being teachers, co-curricular activities is part of the professional requirements or activities which we engage in. So my aim to be here is to align myself with the skills which are required in co-curricular activities, particularly in football. So I'm very sure that the knowledge here will help me also even to assist back in my administration school, that's school administration, on how we can bring out the talents in co-curricular activities, particularly soccer.
Particularly for teachers, because the future of football is with the young ones. Now, dealing with the young ones, we realize that we also need a professional approach to football so that we direct them in the correct way they are supposed to play, the way they are supposed to know the rules, because if the coach is knowledgeable about the rules, he'll pass the same information to the players, because sometimes you find players getting unnecessary cards because of ignorance of the laws. They think it was their right, sometimes even just talking back. But when the coach is well equipped, he will pass right knowledge and information to the young ones, so they will grow up knowing the right way to go.
Now, Africa's hopes of fielding a nation that will lift the 2023 Women's World Cup title came crashing Tuesday afternoon after the only remaining African team in the competition, Morocco.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for.
That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane.
and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 1 kamili na kuendelea.
Toka eneo hili la Naivasha kwenye kaunti 032, gatuzi la Nakuru.
Toka kaunti ya Elgeyo Marakwet, kaunti 028.
Nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Wajir.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Turukana.
Kwa matukio yote yanayojiri katika kaunti hii 010.
Linda Lela has her panel here tonight. She'll be telling you who she is hosting. The guests are already here in studio, as well as Victor Muyakani joining us all the way from the county of Nyeri that has been hosting the president as well as his delegation regarding that tour of the Mount Kenya region. Tonight we ask you as well on Twitter, are you satisfied with the leaders you elected in 2022? Are you satisfied with the leaders you elected in 2022? Linda Alela, over to you. Whom do you have for us tonight?
Well, before we get to the details of that, let's remind ourselves of this very, very important day. And so today marks exactly 364 days since Kenyans, for a 5th time in multi-party election, got the opportunity to cast their votes to elect a new set of leaders after the end of the 5-year constitutional cycle. Now, the August 9th general election politically dividing the country into pro-Azimio la Umoja supporters and Kenya Kwanza supporters, with the latter winning the race. And of course, months later, TV47's Tonight probes in voters, and we get to ask them, are they satisfied with the choices they made as the ballot or at the ballot? Moiga William tells us more on that.
On August 9th, 14,213,137 out of the total 22,120,458 number of registered voters by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission brave the chilly morning and elect in representatives in the levels of governance as laid out in the 2010 Constitution. But one that drew a lot of attention was the presidential seat, which had 4 candidates, albeit a major 2-horse race taking shape between President William Ruto, then Deputy President, and former Premier Raila Odinga, who had a political backing from then President Uhuru Kenyatta. After the tallying and compiling of presidential votes, IEBC declared William Ruto as the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, garnering 7,176,141 votes, consequently being sworn in on August 13th, 2022 at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani.
So help me God.
President William Ruto stepping into the helm of the country's leadership with a hue and cry from a majority of Kenyans over the high cost of living and a tough economic situation. President Ruto vowing to turn around the country's situation by improving the economy through the bottom-up economic model, or rather the plan which focused on to revive the economy, provide health care for all, promote micro, small and medium enterprises, and implement a 2-third gender rule and affordable housing, among other policies.
As a people, we have a historic moment as a nation to change our country and change it for good.
President William Ruto has for the past more than 9 months been steering the country with mixed reactions from Kenyans on the country's leadership. The Kenya Kwanza government has already implemented some of its policies, including lowering the price of fertilizer, the reverting of the operation of Mombasa Port from the inland containers depot in Nairobi and Naivasha, and the Hustler Fund.
Mimi naona tu Ruto anajaribu, anajikakamua. Kuna vile tu wanajaribu juu. Kuna hapo awali wakati waliingia uongozi walikutana na maneno.
Hii nasema kwamba yu president wetu William Ruto sasa ndio president.
But still, some of the 100 days deliverables promised by the William Ruto administration are yet to be achieved. Among them, the promise to lower the cost of food prices, fuel, which it has gone up after President William Ruto scrapped the fuel subsidy program, plus 8% increment on VAT imposed on fuel products after the president appended his signature on the Finance Act 2023.
Maisha kutoka ujamaa ingie rais wetu sijui anaitwa Ruto. Hii maisha imekaa ngumu, kila kitu imeongezwa.
Na serikali bado wanatudanganya. Ruto bado anatudanganya ya kwamba nitapanga maneno.
Sijaona chochote kile ambacho naweza jivunia kama mwana Kenya ya kwamba niko na serikali.
Bei ya vitu yarudi chini, kama hii ya mafuta. Mafuta iko bei yake iko juu sana.
364 days later, after Kenya heading to the polls, speaking to a section of Kenyans, some are skeptical of the direction the country is taking, but some of the contrary opinion, optimistic of a better future under the leadership of President William Ruto. Moige William, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, thank you, Moige William, for that story that certainly sets the pace for this very important conversation right here on Daily Reports and as well People's Court. Remember, it's about you, the people, and therefore we open the lines for you to interact with us. As always, the hashtag is Daily Report. We'll be sampling some of your comments as we continue with the broadcast. And it's exactly 1 year after election, and we're looking at this, just trying to unpack what have we done, what have we not done, what do we need to do to make sure that things are much better. And we are focusing much on the leaders and as well the electorate, just to get to establish whether they are well, accustomed to these processes of elections and of importance. Has a civic education been done to the levels that are good enough to ensure that even as the electoral set out there to go and vote, then they vote, of course, based on ideology and not affiliation and all that, in as much as we all understand that we are a country of, party politics, affiliation, and all this matters. So as we get to this conversation, kindly be part of it. Remember, we also have our very own Victor Muyakani on standby on the other side in Nyeri County. As well, we'll be engaging the audience from there. The People's Court is certainly, a program that is about the people, and that's exactly what it is that we will be doing this evening. And in studio, I am delighted to have a lady and a gentleman. That is Honorable Gloria Uroba, who's a nominated senator. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for creating time to be with us, as well as Honorable Nderitu Murray, the former Laikipia governor as well. Good evening, Gloria. Good evening, Mheshimiwa. Thank you so much as well for creating time to be with us. And we are privileged to have, a financial expert in the house. And so perhaps he will also tell us whether we've done right in terms of, managing the finances as a country, which is very, very important. So we're talking about all these cadres of leadership, from the level of the president to the level of the members of county assembly. Are you satisfied with the kind of leadership that we have today? Before I cross over to Victor Muyakani, allow us to listen to these two bites that perhaps speak to what the Azimio team or the Azimio leaders would feel about the essence of governance at this very point. And when we're talking about 9th of August 2022, and all the way 365 days to 9th of August 2023. Just how well represented are we? Let's listen into that.
That is for the people. We as the leadership who are competitors may not be the best judges, but listening to the ground, to what people are saying, Kenyans are on their own. Their representatives are behaving as though they were elected by Ruto and members of his regime. They are representing the Ruto regime, not the people of Kenya. And the best example was the Finance Act. I need not go further.
Kwa Kiswahili, si mchere tu na nyama. Na vile wenzangu wamesema ni kwamba sisi wa Kenya, we are on our own. These guys are talking of 2/3 gender rule, leader of opposition. Hiyo ingine ni nini wanasema? Hiyo mambo yote wanasema para CDF. Those are things that require constitutional amendment. Na mimi yangu ni kuwaomba wa Kenya wasidanganywe. Kama kuna amendment ya katiba wanataka kufanya, wasipitie hii bipartisan talks. Iwe bombers wa Kenya waongee wote. Lakini tuache kudanganywa na hii jamaa.
Well, we will not trigger what it is that you said, Mheshimiwa, because you certainly know. Do you firmly believe that Kenyans are on their own?
Well, Kenyans are on their own. Look, Linda, the whole point of democracy is that because as 50 million citizens, we may not be able to meet every day to decide on our affairs, we elect a few of us to be able to conduct the matters of state. Now, so you ask yourself, what really is the biggest headache for every Kenyan of every walk of life? And you have to come to the conclusion that it is the cost of living and the escalation of the cost of living. You've seen polls that are suggesting 8 out of 10 Kenyans believe the country is going in the wrong direction, and it is doing so primarily because of the cost of living. So you would expect the representatives of the people to go and solve that problem. Now, the reason Kenyans are feeling they're on their own, if you examine the conduct of elected representatives in the last finance bill and debate and so on.
Across the divide.
Across the divide. Well, I would say those who voted for it, whether they be Azimio or they be Kenya Kwanza, anybody who voted yes for this bill, you would have to say they have abandoned the Kenyan. Because the impact of this Finance Act is to increase, is to make conditions worse for each and every one of us in this republic.
What of the judiciary?
What about the judiciary? I mean, the judiciary is not voting.
It's not voting, but...
It's not in parliament, it's not making the law. The judiciary's role is to interpret whether the law that has been made conforms with the Constitution, whether it has been made properly, whether it infringes on certain matters or in the Constitution, and I'm quite certain that is what is before the courts today.
So if they have, determined these cases in favor of the Act, do you proceed then to say that was an undoing of the members of Parliament or representatives?
Well, the courts will, I'm quite certain, in the fullness of time, decide this case. If you are referring to
the laws, the ones that have already been determined.
Well, what the court determined is whether the application of the Act should begin. And the court, the Court of Appeal pronounced itself that let the application of the Act begin. But as to the constitutionality of it and whether some of it offends the Constitution, I think that matter is yet to be decided. However, the courts are set up so that they can make determinations like that. But Parliament, meaning Senate, where Mheshimiwa is, and the National Assembly, their job is to make law, and to make law that makes life better for Kenyans, not law that makes life worse and more difficult for Kenyans.
It is the Kenyans that say that they have been shortchanged, that they are on their own, you think?
I would not say that they are on their own. You know, when you say that the leaders have left the electorate and Raia and Mwananchi to be on their own, leaders is not an amorphous some cloud. Leaders is, you are saying that, for instance, Senator Gloria Uruoba has left the people who specially elected her, and now she is following on her personal interests, which is absolutely not true. It is not true. The thing that is happening is that we are not speaking about the wins. As you've said, we've just clocked 1 year, yeah? And if I was just thinking of listing all the things that have happened in just under 10 months.
Gloria, I know you understand Swahili. I know you understand Swahili.
So let me just say first.
They say, nazibovu harabu ya nzima. So if there's this one potato that is rotten in the basket, the entire basket.
No. For instance, I just want to pick out one example just to showcase that sometimes there is a lot of narratives and wrong misinformation. As a leader, I am actually specially elected to under the affirmative action. To represent women in the spaces of leadership and particularly in Senate. Under 10 months, if you want to hang me there and say, Gloria, it is through you and a few other leaders that brought to us the Kenya Kwanza Women Charter. you promise us this and this and this. What did you do? Without even speaking, I can tell you, we have more than enough wins to say that I have taken up the mantle with my responsibility. Look at what the government has done with sanitary pads. You know, we came from a budget of 260 million per year to just shy of $1 billion. The same budget that is being shot down is the budget that is fighting for girls. Yes? Because we want our girls to remain in school. So let me speak from a point of me and my leadership, because I can only now hold myself accountable. If it is about fighting for that budget, we did, by all means, and the president actually understood. We signed a women charter, and we have to look out for some of the needs, including the period poverty. How are we going to deal with it? Look at issues that we had when we brought the women charter. We talked about the victims. We have a lot of gender-based violence that is out there. We have institutions and laws and policies that have actually not been implemented. We have under the Solicitors General a board called the Victim Protection Board. We are now, as we speak, through the Senate and a statement that came to the Senate, operationalizing for the first time ever the Victim Protection Board. Meaning, Alela, if anything was to happen, because there are a lot of women out there who lack representation in terms of this gender-based violence, who even, we are talking about sex trafficking, and our girls and our women out there, how do they get protected throughout the judicial system that we come to convictions? That has been operationalized under this government. It has never happened before.
So who is to blame? Who is to blame?
Wait, Alela, give me, just allow me, because I just need just a minute and a half. Look at the Hustler Fund. The Hustler Fund, it's for all Kenyans. But the people that it has touched the most are the women, who we promised under that Women Charter that we are going to push for economic empowerment. We don't want to give handouts. We want to ensure that there is a package within this Hustler Fund where the women are actually able to push their agenda. Representation in government, whether you like it or not, you can spin it, you can do whatever you want. This is the first government that has the highest number of women represented in the cabinet, in boards, in parastatals, in wherever that there was a presidential appointee. Women have actually been kept to the forefront, and this is the first government that is taking seriously the 2/3 gender rule.
And that has to be appreciated.
Alela, let me finalize. The school feeding program. People might think that just came from the air, that we are just launching programs left, right, and center. Personally, when I ran my campaign, Alela, and I sat in studio here, and I talked about Ujia Glow feeding program. And I told people, you don't understand the pain of the women, the mothers, that they have to actually figure out. My children have to eat, both in school, both at home. Look at what this government is doing. They have partnered with county governments and ensured that we are going to have, or not we are going to have, that we are having a school feeding program that is ongoing. So if you were to hold me accountable for the things that I came in front as now, because I'm a nominated senator, and I was there to assent the signature of the president, together with the president, that time he was a candidate, on the things that we are promising the women. In under 10 months, we are literally about to close and say, if it's for the Women Charter, tumemalizana. So I think what is happening, Alela, I will say one thing we have failed, and I will continue to say it, is that we are not communicating enough. We are not shouting enough. The people who want the electorate to believe that we are doing nothing will come out and say, this finance bill is the wrong bill, and yet they are actually going to court to stop our children from eating.
A quick short break.
You understand? Someone has gone to court to stop our children from getting food in school.
And I'm glad that you acknowledge the mistake of not communicating or projecting this.
We need a proper communication team. Yes.
But Mheshimiwa here is has a concern on the question of cost of living. The key things that perhaps would affect the common mwananchi right at the core before you even think of them conducting business in the right way. So allow us to take a short break.
Okay.
And then we come back on that very note, as well as engage Victor on the other end.
Radio 47 tuko nawe mchana kutwa na usiku kucha. 95.7 Taita Taveta. tunavuma na bado. Imagine sasa ukiwa na as low as 200 shillings.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for.
That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio
ya scenario where we're going to have this conversation without looking at the manifesto of the government, without looking at the gains that the government had promised to the people in terms of what they will give us and what they will not give us. And Gloria here acknowledges that they have failed to communicate these gains. Are they giving fodder to the opposition side to perhaps, run with their failures?
Look, perhaps if you allow, I will respond briefly to what the Senator has said. Take sanitary towels. Now, going to 1 billion shillings is fine, but I hope you remember the context in which we are talking about.
Yes.
The budget of Kenya today is 3.7 trillion shillings.
Yeah.
So 1 billion shillings is ni tone ndogo sana in a very big bucket of resources.
But when
you
this
think,
says...
Don't hear me. You see, you've made a charter with women, Gloria has said, and when you think about particularly school-going young women and the effect and the impact of not having sanitary towels on educational attainment and so on, you would think that if we are serious, we will commit serious resources to it. And what you will find, this government is paying lip service to a whole range of issues, one of which being sanitary towels, that if you put a little bit more, a few thousands more, or a few millions more, but what you need is to invest at scale if you're going to change, to make a difference. Because you know for a fact that across the land, many, or a majority perhaps, of young women miss out on school and many other issues because they have no access to sanitary pads. If you look at the question of the Hustler Fund, I mean, they will say, that's fine, that Kenyans have borrowed 30 billion. And again, it may look like an impressive number, but what I would like you to remember is that if you look at total loans to businesses in Kenya, again, you are talking about 4-5 trillion shillings. If you look at the number of micro businesses that require money, you are talking about 15 million. Small businesses. And just to give you again context, a county like Laikipia, when I was leading it, our fund for small business was 3.3 billion, one county. Now they are talking about 30 billion for the whole republic. So that context. Now, but I agree with you that why don't we evaluate this regime on the basis of the promises? Because after all, you have to have a baseline when you evaluate somebody. And what did this regime promise? This regime promised that by the time we put the Bible down, the prices of basic commodities are going to come down. The cost of living is going to come down. Now, what has happened? The prices, for example, of electricity, if you are a small consumer of 50 kilowatts, the cost of your electricity has gone up 65%. So last year, if you had 1,000 shillings and you were buying tokens, you are buying 62 tokens.
Units.
Today, you are getting 29 because of what has happened in those 9 months that this regime has been in office. Look at the cost of fuel. Yeah? Last year, or the cost of paraffin, which in many rural areas is a key question, has gone up 30%, 32% from where it was 12 months ago. The cost of petrol. Now, and the effect of it is, of course, that matatu fares, okay? Like just take where we are now. If you think about Githurai, which is behind us on Thika Road, to town, the fare has gone up by 40% in that 1 year. Yeah? And that's across the Republic. So look, of course, the regime will say, oh, are you unfairly criticizing us? But the reality is that the life is becoming unbearable for each and every Kenyan. And what we, certainly myself, being in the opposition, what we would hope that those in the regime will do, first of all, accept criticism and go and look for solutions.
Mheshimiwa, the question then would be, is this criticism legitimately about these concerns that we're raising here, especially when it's coming from Azimio's side? I'll allow you to answer that after we have crossed over to the other side in Nyeri County. Let's get to hear what the people have to say about this 1 year term. That is from the 9th of August 2022 to the 9th of August 2023. After going to cast that vote, are they satisfied that they picked the right leaders? Are they being well represented? Victor Moyakani. That is from the 9th of August 2022 to the 9th of August 2023. After going to cast that vote, are they satisfied that they picked the right leaders? Are they being well represented? Victor Moyakani.
All right. Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you so much, George. We have been ready, and while we were ready, we were dealing with a cold. Nyeri is hosting the president, but I believe before the president arrived, they were already hosting. But they don't look too bothered by that. Tonight I am joined by the immediate former Member of Parliament for Nyeri Town. We're talking about Honorable Gunjiri Wumbugu. Karibu sana.
Thank you, sir.
And sir, forgive me for not extending my hand. It's not long enough. We are joined by the current Speaker of the County Government of Laikipia, Honorable Lantana Nabala. Thank you so much for joining us. It looks as if we have Laikipia in the house. We also have a host of leaders and opinion leaders from this great county of Nyeri. I would like you to just wave to the Kenyans. Wave to the Kenyans. How do you say hello from Ruare? Muriega. So Muriega. Wonderful. We're going to have a great conversation here. But first things first, Honorable Wumbugu, I really need to get this from you. From where you sit, the country that you love, the country that you've served, where is it heading to?
I think
1 year down the line.
1 year down the line. One year down the line.
Yes.
First and foremost, thank you so much for coming, visiting with us, and sharing the cold. 1 year down the line. There is the political story of why this country looks 1 year down the line. I think there's the real story. The real story, as far as I'm concerned, is that 1 year down the line, we have a stable country. We have a country that went through a political transition. We have a new administration in place, and the country is moving. We might have political upsets and political competition, but I don't think there's a query or there's anybody disputing the fact that the country transitioned, which is a good thing, because not too many countries, especially within the third world, are able to transition the way we did, and transition especially in a structure where the previous regime didn't want the one that is there, and were very clear in the head that they didn't want this one, so that they were able to transition, and we have 1 year we can look back to and say, wow, we're still here, is something. The fact that we have challenges, cost of living is very high, we have social challenges, we have political challenges, we still have struggling with the unity of just coming together after the election. at national level primarily, because it's not happening at local level. I mean, all of us who lost and those who won at local level have accepted. The only place we seem to have that dispute is at the national level.
So you're not having some mini mandamanos?
I don't have mandamanos here. I'm not trying to demand for half of the CDF. We as girls were done, and we were done. Part of it is because when you go to an election, you must accept that only one person is going to be declared the winner. And whether you agree with how the process was done, if you're a true Democrat, you have to be able to remember that even that person who has been declared actually you want to believe that they have the best decision of the country. And 5 years is not a long time. As you just said, 1 year is down.
It's down.
You've got 4 years to go. If you're planning to run again in 2027, you have 3 years before you start actually doing active campaigns.
I want to come back and talk about the difference between the political story and the real story on the ground. But Honorable Speaker, the country that you lead and serve right now, what does it look like to you right now?
To me, it looks like it's going to the right direction.
Is that so?
Laikipia County and the country at large, in my view, is going on well. It's going on to the right direction for two reasons. One, we had a big transition in the year 2002 when the government and all machinery were for one person and the side that was seen to be the opposition won. This last year, today is 8th August, we voted 9th August. The country took a complete shift like the year 2002. Whereby, where the government is, all the machinery, the international community, and everybody on one side, and then the person perceived to be the opposition won. It means the Kenyans made a decided decision to give this person. 3, the country took off with a former machinery to malign the new government and to add salt to injury. Apart from the turmoil, economic turmoil worldwide, that we are not an isolation, we are in, like everyone else, we are struggling now to push and pay all the debts that were collected in the previous regime to this one. So let's look at the right way. Now that we are here, we don't have anything like we see in other places. There are no major destruction like in other places, but we think that the leaders currently who are left out, who are not elected, Kenyans did not give them a tick to proceed in leadership, don't believe that the Kenyans didn't give them the leadership. So it's like, let me try to mudsling one side so that I may appear a bit cleaner. The fourth thing, and I will stop after this, if you go for a game, if you go for a contest, and there should only be one winner, if you become the loser, accept there is a winner. There is no way that you can have a winner without a loser. And you have to accept and move on. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I'd like to come to our audience in one moment, but as you prepare your views about where your country is, what you see from where you are, Honorable Mbugo, I want you to give me a bit of an insight, in a nutshell. And I say this with the utmost respect. You did lose the election. Tell us how it feels to lose the election and what struggles you went through as a leader who's lost an election and somewhat fairly or unfairly. And let us know how it feels and how you transitioned from that, being the incumbent, to being on the other side.
Thank you very much. Losing in anything, even just a game of darts or a game of pool, is not a nice feeling. Losing an election is a multiplication of that feeling. Why do I say that? You've been in office for 5 years. You were not planning not to go back. So you had plans, you had planned things you were going to do. And then you were operating on the assumption you were winning. So you didn't actually think very seriously that you could lose.
The talk of machinery.
Beyond the machinery. Here we were doing okay. Right. We had done our game. We played our game well. And I think we just lost track of, here in Nyeri we make fun, we lost track of who we were competing with. Because in Nyeri town we looked like we were competing with the president, with the deputy president and Nyeri. Because every time he came, then we'd all show up to make their life as difficult as possible. And we lost track of the fact that that was not our competition. Right? We focused so much in fighting the national fight that we actually forgot we have local politics to play.
Right.
So when the elections came the way they did, and you walk around and you listen to people and they'll tell you, Hesh, that's good, but you went to fight our heart. Actually, I remember them telling me that he went to fight our heart. As we loved Ruto, you are fighting him. You know, we tried to talk to you, we tried to explain to you, and for me that was curative. That was it helped me understand. There's nothing as bad as when you lose and you don't understand where you lost. Right. So for me, and then having this small kiosk where we're able to have tea and mandazi with people allows people to come here and we speak, and they tell me, you know, this is where this could have been different. So I think for me, if you're gonna be able to go through a loss process, an election especially, the first thing we must do is focus on understanding why. Whether you think you lost fairly or not. And I say this by now projecting to the national elections. I have worked with Raila in 2012. Right. I was his head of political affairs. And then I was part of his campaign team in 2022. That's 10 years difference. Right. Part of my problem with how he specifically deals with loss that he actually never does that. He never sits down and tries to understand why he lost. Because he's never accepted his loss. Because for you to understand why you lose, you must first accept you have lost. Then now start analyzing, okay, so why did I lose? If you, and that's why you find a situation, and it's so easy. I hear him, I feel him. You have put in so much investment in time, resources, hours, people, money into an election process, and then you use and you believe you lost unfairly. Analyze that. Analyze why you lost that election and why, what you need to do different. Because if you don't do that, then you're going to have 5 losses like he has. Right. Because if you lost the first one, you didn't understand. You lost the second one, you didn't understand. You lost the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. Then it means you're actually not asking yourself the right questions and the evidence. So just to conclude the question you asked, losing an election is not a good thing. But if you're a Democrat, and I guess for me, I would say that the fortunate part, and I thank God for this, is that I'm still a person.
There's still chance, there's still time.
I mean, I still have a political future, one way or the other. There's no guarantee that I'll ever get elected again, but at least there's an opportunity to go back into the field again, right? And you go back into the field with the lessons learned. So you look back into the process, you look back into the mistakes you made, you look back at what the other people you are competing with did that you did not do, and that makes the year easy. And then, of course, you sit with the people you work with. A lot of the people I meet with, my team, incidentally, the team we used to work with, we have coffee, soup, and mandazi every week. Right. From the weekend we lost.
Till today?
Till today.
And what do you do?
First we were analyzing, okay, first we were just whining and complaining and just making noise, you know. So we went through the mourning process, we went through the learning process, and we started now thinking about the future. And
that's something you think you would advise to happen.
Who has been in the process of an election, you need to go through the process of losing it.
Right.
Not, whether you agree or not, you lost it or not. If you're not sitting on the position, if you're not the member of parliament or you're the MCA, or
then you've lost.
You've lost.
Wise words indeed. Now, I want to shift this conversation, and we'll come to you, Honourable Speaker, in a second. There's a gentleman at the far end of a very warm and great audience. Please tell us your name, where you come from, and what you see from where you are as you look at this country, how it's looking like 1 year down the line after the elections that I hope you participated in.
I'm Wakaredi from
Yes.
Nyeri.
Yes.
Ya kitu moja ninaweza sema Kenya mahali iko, mimi naweza sema Kenya inaendelea vizuri. Manake tumetransit politically, tumetransit, and the first achievement yenye government imefanya ni completion of the pending projects. Tukifanya uchaguzi kuna projects zilikuwa zinaendelea, na vile rais ametembelea sisi tumeona commission hizo milani, so tunajua Kenya inaendelea, and what we are expecting it's more of this completion of projects. Yeah.
Right. And just the madam next to you, please tell us who you are, where you're from, and what do you see, real quick, in the 1 year that we've changed leadership? Where's your country going?
All right, my name is Julia from a village called Gatito within the Nyeri constituency. I can say there's progress in the right direction in the sense of, first I'm a mother, and I understand once you give birth to a child, you actually become patient and give the child time. The same way, the moment we elected the government, rather the moment this government came into power, we're giving it time. It's actually progress in the right direction. As we can see, God has blessed us with rain. So the issues of cost of living, what has actually been ailing the country, rather it's what is expected to go down. And like I said, it is just progress one day at a time. It's taking one day at a time. Today they fix something here, tomorrow they fix something there. Today they have already fixed the price of gas. It has gone down. We are hoping it's going to keep going down. They're already in the right direction, much as the water, much as the fertilizer. Therefore, we are hopeful that for sure the country is going to the right direction. I'm proud of this country so far.
Right, and we'll be back in a moment. But Madam Muthoni, right behind you, on the other side, Madam Muthoni, please let us know, how do things look like from where you sit?
My name is Susan Muthoni. I'm happy for the president, what he made us for yesterday. We have faith because of having us to our running of CBC, employing teachers. Now we have faith with our president, our RIGG. Yes.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. One more thing just before we shift. The gentleman right next to you.
Kwa majina naitwa Martin. Taigawa mimi si mwanasiasa, mimi mkaaji wa Nyeri mjini, na kwangu ningetaka kusema kwamba serikali iko sawa. Tuwapatie muda. Hatuwezi zaa, kuna venye huwa mimi nasema vizuri sana. Mzazi hawezi zaa mtoto leo, kesho anyonye, kesho kutwa ende graduate. Kwa hivyo ile kitu ningesema ya kwamba sisi kama hata wenye wako opposition ama wenye wako Kenya, tupatie rais nafasi afanye kazi yake. Miradi tunaona ameifanya vizuri. Kama venye mwenzangu amesema, Ruto ametuahidi mambo mingi sana. Tumesikia kwamba kuna njia kutoka hapa Ihithe kwenda Donyojeru. Hiyo ni kitu tumeona kama ni achievement kama sisi watu wa Nyeri mjini.
Kwa mwaka huu mmoja.
Kwa mwaka huu mmoja.
Alright.
Kwa hivyo sisi tunaona ni mambo mingi ametufanyia, lakini we give him time, na tukipatia muda na nafikiria mambo itakuwa sawa.
All right. We'll come back to some of the views ambazo tunazo hapa katika wenzetu ambao wamekuja kujumuika na sisi. We'll be joining you in a moment. We'll come back. The Honorable Speaker, I can see you itching. There's an analogy there about a child being born, and I know you have something to say. So we'll come back in a moment. But just real quick, just tell us that point. Tell us that point real quick.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank Honorable here for explaining that if you become a perennial loser, it means you don't look back where you did wrong. If you fail, I have been in politics and I have once failed, and I sit down and look back. First, there are phases. First, there is that, like you're mourning, you feel very bad that you lost. Number two, you will start realizing there is something you did not do, that is why the other person won and you lost. And your strategy therefore is to strengthen what you did good, and you resuscitate yourself from your shortcomings.
Right.
Now, there is one thing I have seen in politics, as I talk about our country.
Yes.
Politics has something like a cover on your face. There is a place where you reach. No matter what you are told, you are completely blind, and you will only complain when you fail and say, they took it by force, I was rigged out, because you become completely blind. And let me now talk of the government in the last thing that I want to say about the child.
Yes, please, before we shift to Linda.
All of us here are adults, and I'm sure many Kenyan adults are looking at us here. Number one, when you want to make a family, you always talk to the opposite gender. You talk to a woman. Now, let me give an example of a man. And you sit down and say, now, what do we do? What will you do for me? I want children. How many? I want 10 children. Will you give me? Yes, I'll give you. All the 10 children I'll give to you. I'll build a big house for you. I'll buy you a car. The normal promises. And you're going to work towards it. When today you are taken to church and you get married, you don't get the 10 children and the car and the house. You start by sleeping in one cubicle with one stool and you're on the floor.
Right.
Slowly you grow until you achieve. Why doesn't the girl run away at that moment? Why doesn't the man divorce the woman because he was not given children within 1 day or 1 week or 1 year? It is because everything has ways on how to go about. The government is progressing slowly to achieve.
I want you to let that very powerful image simmer. Let it simmer. Let it simmer as we jump back. It's quite an interesting thing. I believe the question is clear to you Kenyans. Do you have your 10 children with you right away, or do we need to wait? Do we need to allow for the process to continue? All that and so much more. When we come back to this other side from Nyeri County, we're chasing the cold in a special way to tell you how you feel, how we feel, and how you feel about the country that you live in a year after the election. Linda, over to you, and George. Let us know what the people in studio have to say, particularly about what our people here are talking about. We've heard from a few. Let's hear from you as well.
Well, evidently the people of Nyeri coming out to rubber stamp the fact that they certainly voted for this government. Well, that is the Speaker of Laikipia County, your Speaker, Mheshimiwa, and you will be speaking to some of the things that he alludes to. But before then, valid questions right here, Gloria Roba, as to the points you've articulated, the gains that the Kenya Kwanza has made. We're looking at the subsidy programs, the Hustler Fund that you have touched on, you know, all these programs that are set for the girl child. Just how sustainable are these programs, and how much more time until, you know, you can confidently tell the people of Kenya that we have now delivered? You've heard the people of Nyeri saying that let's allow the baby to grow. Let us give this government a bit of time.
First of all, let's acknowledge that we have delivered a baby. Yes, because as of August 1st, even the publications that were so against the Kenya Kwanza government had to come out with the facts clearly. Serious publications that we were complaining about that time, we were saying that the media has been captured. They came out with the facts and said, cost of living has gone down. Inflation as of August 1st. These are not my statistics. These are statistics from verified sources. You know, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics reported through the research teams and all these writers of, you know, all these newspaper articles and whatever. Inflation has dropped 7.3% down. Cost of food, potatoes, spinach, cabbages.
We'll ask you in comparison to what?
Let me
the
tell
previous
you,
regime or within yourselves?
In comparison even to the day before. Because you can't come and lie in studio and say the cost of living has gone up. When we took this government, the cost of living was at its highest. And we are saying, based on whatever you want to base it, the cost of living is going down. I'm giving you the cost of food, the items that are going down. The figures on the table. Potatoes, spinach, cabbages, onions, tomatoes, wheat flour, the white has gone down 10%.
Thanks to the fertilizer subsidy.
Thanks to the fertilizer subsidy.
Would say.
You remember we were saying the theory of the subsidy, it has to be on the inputs and not on what?
Hence the question, how sustainable?
Exactly. Very sustainable. In fact, on one Business Daily article by a researcher, not me, a scientific researcher who's out there, they say they credited the cost of living going down to the fact that we are subsidizing inputs. Yeah, and that is scientific. It's out there. The cost of, I've had people saying electricity. Yeah, the cost of electricity, statistically and factually, 200 kilowatts has gone down 4.4%. I've had people saying cooking gas. Cooking gas has gone down 9.2%. I even have someone just quickly sent me a statistics of the monthly rent of housing has gone down.
But the question is down to what, or from what?
No, listen. Linda. The cost of petrol. He spoke here about fuel and petrol and what. The cost of petrol, if I may just, let me just give facts to people, has gone down 6.9%, 1 liter of petrol. 1 liter of diesel has also gone down 7.4% now. If you're asking, has gone down from where? Has gone down from Kibaki era, has gone down from Uhuru era.
From the raises that you made as Kenya Kwanza government.
We took this country when the cost of living was at its highest, when the cost of everything, including the same things I'm quoting, cooking gas, petrol, diesel, all these things, what was at its highest. And what we are reporting as at now is that from when we took over to now,
shot the prices a bit and then now,
shy of a year, the cost of living is going down. Now, if you are actually going to bring a mathematician, because me, I'm not a mathematician.
He's a financial expert.
No, I don't want us to... No, we do not need an analyst.
Listen.
We all rely on the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics.
These are statistics from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics.
Which senator And I hope you're not calling these professionals in the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics.
Governor,
I hope you accept
statistics
that
from Kenya National Bureau.
if you look, if you go,
and I have it here.
You can open.
Yeah. Go online,
can you
look at-
verify
you
that
go online,
electricity,
go online.
200 kilowatts from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics has gone down 4.4% or not?
Perhaps that's the reason why I asked.
These are not lies.
If you are online, go to the KNBS website and look at the
There you go. That is what I have
Consumer Price Index movement for the month of July.
Alela, this is a hustler government, and it's for a hustler nation.
Right.
Wacha kutuletea kizungu nyingi. Mimi I'm just saying, unga pali tulitoa na unga pali iko. Imeshuka haijashuka?
Gloria, practically speaking, without looking, Gloria, without looking at what it is that KEBS, without looking at what it is that KEBS says,
This is
not a question of kizungu mingi.
Ni kizungu.
What you see, as a nation, and I hope our colleagues in government accept, we must be professional in what we are doing, and we must actually speak the truth. The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is a body, part of Treasury, that keeps track of what is happening to inflation.
Yes.
If you look at July inflation, which I think the Senator is trying to explain a little bit, at 7.3%. Yeah, the previous month, inflation...
1st of August.
Yes,
which is just a week ago, right?
That's why it is for July. At the end of every month, in the last week of the month, the Bureau does this thing. Now, the reality you will find is that all foodstuffs, their prices are actually nearly 11% higher than they were
the previous regime.
12 months ago. Forget the regime. 12 months ago. If the spinach prices have come down and a few foods have come down because
practically speaking, without looking at
you have spoken without me interrupting you.
No, you actually interrupted me.
What I would like Kenyans who are listening to us, what I would like Kenyans who are watching and listening to us, to look at the official source of data, which is the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, and what you will find is that, in fact, electricity, and Kenyans, don't have to believe the senator or myself. Kenyans will believe what they are paying to Kenya Power, and everybody will tell you, last year they could buy 62 units, this year they are getting 29 units for the same price. And this is what the senator is doing is characteristic, is the behavior of this government. And I'll just give you two examples. One gentleman there in Nyeri has said, government is completing projects. Actually it isn't. If you look at the road from Nairobi to Mau Summit, what this government did, this regime, when they got into power, the first thing they did was to cancel it. And now they're trying to redo it so that it's good, Lantano is the speaker.
And it's the previous regime that failed.
Yes, and what they did when they came to office in Laikipia, 10 smart towns whose tarmac was going on, they cancelled those contracts. Laikipia was the first county to do leasing in Kenya, to arrange leasing, large-scale leasing of equipment. They cancelled it.
Are you saying they're choking devolution in this case? Because Laikipia is just one.
We're not talking about the national government cancelling in Laikipia. I am talking about Laikipia government cancelling the things that were going on there.
Is that likely to be
the same behavior that you are seeing with the national government? And I should say here that one would hope the speakers, both at the Senate, at the National Assembly, and at county level, stay as neutral arbiters. So they're not quite expected to be commenting broadly and taking sides in the political discourse, because they are expected to be neutral referees in all these houses of debate. Now, our colleague Wambugu has, in one other comment, about successful transition. Well, look, it's not the first time we're having successful transition, but it's a good thing we had a successful transition. It's not the first time that opposition is winning, or that somebody who perhaps did not enjoy backing of certain quarters is winning. Going back to President Moi, going back to Kibaki, going back to, say, Uhuru, when he was being backed in his first attempt by the regime and did not win. But it's a good thing Kenya went through a successful transition. Now, is this regime struggling to sort out the debts of the previous regime. And again, it is useful for us to be factual and to be honest. Because as leaders, I think we have a responsibility to speak honestly. In the 9-12 months that this regime has been in office, they have borrowed in excess of 700 billion. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't have to believe me. Go to Central Bank and look at the data.
And those ones we can project.
And you can project. 700 billion in new borrowing. Now, that is not dealing with the old problem. And I must tell you, because this regime has also been increasing interest rates, and I know that Kenyans, wherever you are, if you have borrowed, I bet you in the last 1 month, your bank has written to you to say that the cost of that money is going up. Mm-hmm. Why? Because of the behavior of government. Now, government has increased interest rates, so it is borrowing at higher and higher cost. And even where it is rolling over debt, which I think is what the speaker was talking about, where government borrows today to pay old debt, they are borrowing this new debt at even higher cost to pay debt from previous years that was cheaper.
Why don't you then want them to tax more so that they are able to pay this?
Well, look, you must answer the question, what are you spending the taxes and the borrowing on?
Not on.
When Kenya was successful in the last 20 years, you would have to say is the first years of Kibaki. And why was government successful? And all our national leaders today served in that government with Kibaki. They were successful because they were balancing the budget. We were living within our means. We were not taxing people and businesses to loss making. Now, what any government, this one in power, and any government that wants to solve the cost of living must do is to live within our means. Bring down the budget overall. And now, are there opportunities to bring down the budget? Of course there are. Like what? Take health. Health is a devolved function. Why is the Ministry of Health getting nearly double the budget? Here in Nairobi, what are they actually doing with that money? Health is a devolved function. That money should be going to county. If it must be spent on health, then it should be going to counties. And you will see that repeated in water. You will see that repeated in agriculture. You can save upwards of 300 billion, 400 billion by avoiding duplication. That is what any government, we're not just talking about the Kenya Kwanza government. Any government that wants to solve the cost of living problem must, unless you invent your own universe of economics, you must do certain things correctly.
Is that an acknowledgement that that is what played out during the previous regimes? As your speaker would say, it is the previous regime that got us to this moment. We're talking about devolution. And therefore,
Alela, I think I need to jump in.
Yeah, let the senator jump in, but I answer the question and you jump in.
Let him answer, then you come.
Then you jump in. The thing is this. Look, frankly, I don't think apportioning blame is going to solve anything. Now, whether you say it was the Uhuru administration or Kibaki before him or Moi before him or Jomo Kenyatta before them, the fact of the matter is that the economy is in a bad spot. We sitting here today as leaders here in Nyeri and everywhere in the Republic, it is our responsibility to solve. Now, those who are in office have the highest responsibility to solve this problem. And what we ask of them, other than insulting opposition, other than insulting the church or anybody who has a different view from you, listen to what people are saying. Take the ideas that might be of benefit to the Republic and implement them. But yelling and insulting us and calling us names does not bring the cost of living down. And above all, let us tell the truth.
Alena, you know, the governor is trying to distract and bring confusion. For instance, trying to say that inflation is not the consumer price index. Yet, you know, I might not be... No.
When I use consumer price index, you told me I was speaking to Kizungu, so we went back to inflation.
I gave you your time.
So let's go with inflation.
Give me my time. Give me my time.
Proceed, Gloria.
You do not, even for some of us who are not PhD holders, we understand basics. And you cannot say that inflation is something completely different from the consumer price index. It is not. So even what you're trying to do by casting aspersions on Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, which that is where this information that is given publicly, even to journalists. In fact, for me, you're insulting the journalists of People Daily and Business Daily and all the journalists that actually put out this information for the public to consume, Governor. And that is not, that's wrong.
I will play the devil's advocate.
No, let me just finish my my thought process.
Proceed.
The Governor also quoted that, you know, in just 1 year, Kenya Kwanza government has borrowed 700 billion. That is a fact, right? As opposed to 1.1 trillion, which was the suggested budget of Azimio. I didn't hear him talk about that. Because when you look at the projects and the programs that they will be, and even their proposal, because I sit with the same legislators who came to say, we don't want to pass this budget because we have our own budget and it is like this. It was going to borrow 1.1 trillion. Why are you not telling Kenyans about that? So as you're saying, if you're benchmarking that the cost of living is down as opposed to what, I'm also asking you, when you tell Kenyans that Kenya Kwanza government has borrowed 700 billion, also tell them that Azimio's proposal was 1.1 trillion borrowing under 10 months.
How important is
now,
that, Gloria, at a time when we're looking at the Kenya Kwanza
we are giving,
government
if it is about giving information, let us just be responsible leaders and give information full. You cannot quote the Bible and say just this part that, you know, that's the one that meets you. You have to give them the true story. The true story is from where the governor is sitting. Yes, the 700 billion that this government has borrowed is actually the opposite of the 1.1 trillion that the Azimio budget was proposing.
With what it is that the government has borrowed,
I've had
Mm-hmm.
also governor saying that actually projects are being shut down, both at the national level and the county level. I guess he has more information on Laikipia level. We have just seen the president come from the coast tour. Forget Nyeri first.
Yeah.
If I come to Nyeri, my friend, we will shut down this show. The coast tour, where the president went to focus on blue economy. The projects, you want to tell me the projects in London are non-existent? 552 million committed to common interest groups. Those projects are they have of no interest to the hustlers in that area. Kilifi, he commissioned a fish landing site with cold rooms and all that just to push the value chain of the fisheries. He allocated 800 million for the construction of modern markets. In Kilifi, the president issues IDs to a whole community that has been neglected completely by so many governments. But the president said, and this was in our manifesto, that we are leaving nobody behind. He took the whole government there and said, listen, there's a group of people here, the Pemba community, they have not been identified. Without an ID, you know, in this country, you can't even have a mobile phone. If you can't have a mobile phone, you cannot even do a small business. You cannot move from point A to B. He went there and recognized and said, we are leaving no one behind, and he placed it there. The Toyota assembly, that project is a project that was not launched. You know, you can't come and say projects are being shut down. Now, let's move to Nyeri, where I might not be a resident of Nyeri or Mount Kenya, but the president has been in Mount Kenya for a couple of days. Yeah? Do you want me to list the water supply projects?
Well, certainly not.
There are so many, exactly. I'm glad you have said that, because there are so many, I'll take so many hours on this show. If I now go to affordable housing, do you want me to list them? 140 units in Kirinyaga, 975 units in Kiambu. Shall I go on? Roads project.
This one's a plan.
The roads project.
Plans, Gloria.
You have, no, you have people on site. I've even had one talking about a road. You have in the interrogation, you have the people there talking about some roads that actually have been completed. Those are not. It's not a myth. These are things that are happening.
You want to allow us go to
hospital? 145 bed unit of level 4. That is not a project. So when we are giving information, say that in Laikipia perhaps, your counterpart who has won, who is now the governor, has shut down a project you started. You can say that. But in terms of national projects, we actually have a whole intention of ensuring. When it comes to roads, talk to Murkomen. He will tell you the number one priority is that we have to finish all the projects that the previous government had started, because they are actually part and parcel of what we want to complete.
And not to defend the governor,
the
but
the level 4 hospital you speak about is at Narumoro. That hospital has been put together by the county government of Nyeri using Kenya Devolution Support Program funds. Okay.
What is your
the
point,
road?
Governor?
The road.
Has the hospital? No.
Did I interrupt
because
you?
we have.
My point is this.
Because
my
we
point
have
is this.
universal under our manifesto.
Can I answer your point?
Under our
Can I
manifesto,
answer your
we have
question?
a universal health cover that we are pushing.
My point.
Under that universal health cover, we have infrastructure that is supposed to support it. Even projects that had started before that did not have specific infrastructure to support our universal health cover.
Whether
we have gone
national or the
whether national or county. For us, we are not discriminating as a government. The point is, the services have to reach the people, come what may. And that is what the launch of the hospital.
Your regime has not built the hospital. Perhaps you have gone to help Governor Kahiga to launch it. And asante sana for helping Governor Kahiga. The road you speak of, the road that you speak of, from Ihide to Dodero, listen to me. The road that you're talking about is an existing road. Actually, it is a Maram road through the Abadea forest.
That is what
and that road,
Gentlemen, give the devil his due.
I think we should just let Gloria. We should just Gloria.
So let's cool the fire. Let's cool the fire.
Give the devil his due.
To Nyeri.
Let's cross over to Nyeri.
30 seconds. 30 seconds, Governor.
No, let's
the road
cross
from
over to Nyeri and here from
Nyeri passes through the Abadea, through the forest, and that road has been the subject of many environmental studies. This is why even previous administrations have not tarmacked it, but it is there, and it is a nice Maram road, and you can use it. Yeah, as I was explaining, it is a good thing. It's a good thing. For example, Keganjo factory of KCC, again, completed in the previous regime.
Okay.
Perhaps they went to open it.
Let's cross over to Nyeri. You will agree with me that the current regime could as well decide that these projects do not proceed, regardless of who is handling them. Allow us to cross over to the other side.
Let us hear from the people.
Any government.
Let's cross over to.
Right, Linda, thank you so much. I can see the studio on the other side is quite vibrant and things are heating up. I love the discussion. I can assure you a lot of what you're saying has a host of reactions and responses from this side. And starting with you, Honorable Speaker, I'd like you to I could see you nodding, I could see you shaking your head furiously, I could see you nodding down. I even worried about the health of your pen for a few moments there. I thought it was going to... Take us through what your reaction is to what you've been hearing from the other side of the studio.
Thank you. Let me speak as a Kenyan. Like I'm not holding any position.
Right.
You can tell if the country is going the right direction or going the wrong direction. As a Kenyan, the country is going to the right direction.
Tell us why.
And I said one and I'm going to repeat it. Then I will comment one about Laikipia because it has been mentioned.
Yes.
Now, number one, when you see people who understand what was happening in the country, we had the previous regime before 1 year, because today it reaches exactly 1 year since we voted. Before that time, we went on well. The country was doing a very interesting thing, was borrowing and then borrowing to pay a borrowing and add a borrowing. So it's like digging a new hole to fill up the old hole. And then, when it was difficult to do so, postponing the dates of repayment. Now, when the economy of the world has gone down, and Kenya, we are not outside the world, we are within the world. So whatever happens in the world affects us. It comes to this time when the world is, has a kind of like a receding in economics, then it is time now to repay the old loans. So the way we are with the current regime, we are floating. We are floating on well. We are not doing badly. We are going on very well. Now, I want to comment about Laikipia. When the new government came in, I believe Kenyans can see that we do not have the count of deaths of insecurity like it used to happen. Now, we have a tranquil county. Things are getting better. In 2013, devolution came in. Joshua Irongo won. In 2017, the current member of Laikipia County, who is on the other side of the studio, won in 2017 and defeated Governor Irongo with 1,000 and some balance of votes. They were almost equal. He did his work. He became the chairman of Azimio, and he pushed the agenda of Azimio. I believe the home of Azimio's strategy was in Laikipia. Governor Irongo defeated him with over 70% of votes. He is in record for contempt of court, refusing to obey the court, to talk to the doctors. He sacked them. If he had the ear to listen to other Kenyans, why didn't he listen to the people of Laikipia? Why did he sack all of them? Why bring machinery that they keep parking and you are paying for the parking for the other companies? You pay millions. At the end of the day, the millions have gone. The cars will still go and the machinery. And then at the end of the day, leaving the county with nearly 4 billion debt. But it is not, if we go that direction, it's not right. So let's talk of the national issues.
Yes, please.
And the real things of the national issues that we are tackling here, we look in the term of how the country is currently.
Right.
It is better than the previous regime. We are moving on well. We feel that things, the way they went up, are now stabilizing and starting to come down. I like the senator who is giving a synopsis of item by item, and that is what we feel on the ground.
Do you think, and just sticking with you for a moment, do you think that it is a fair discussion to blame the current cost of living to the current government?
No. Because the previous years, the economy of the world had started changing and going low, and therefore life went up in terms of the economy of the world went down, and therefore it was difficult to run in the current situation.
But Mheshimiwa, there's perception and then there's reality.
Yes.
I mean, the people on the ground are feeling the pain, and it's kind of hard to understand macroeconomics and microeconomics when you can't afford unga on your table. What would you say to such a situation?
There are two things. Number one, when things are difficult and going uphill, and then you find them getting stabilized. Now, I want you to understand that the effects of economies has what is called a kite effect. A kite can shift and go up very fast, but it comes down slowly. As it comes down slowly, it is only possible for us to come to a level which we can all manage. If we allow it to calm down, if we keep shouting and maybe blowing it to go far away, it won't help. It is us to hold each other's hand, ensure that they come down, and support the current government. Because if we keep shouting and derail the people who are pulling the kite down, then we will all suffer together.
Right, and on that note, I want you to jump in here. I could see you reacting and expressing yourself to some of those things, even as we prepare to have some of the members in our audience to jump in on the subject matter. Let us know where you sit. What particularly jumped off the page from what was being discussed on the other side?
Context is a very important thing when you're having a conversation with anything or about anything. Why do I say this? So President Ruto has been in office for 12 months, if you're looking at the politics, or 10 months, if you're looking at administration, right? So we can judge him. But none of us here has ever been president. Not even the guy, not Muridi, not anybody. So you can only judge him based on other presidents who were there before. And so I always try and tell people, so we look at Kibaki, who we are all very proud to associate ourselves with today. Kibaki in his first year, first 18 months is when Githongo was recording him because of corruption and conversations about corruption. We were doing badly. People had lost. Okay, initially we got him with a lot of hope, and then the corruption moved in very quickly, and remember there was a story that, we're not sure whether Kibaki is going to survive, and we need to collect money very quickly in case we need to go back into another election. So there's a lot of corruption going on. That is in Kibaki's first close to 2 years. Yes. Terrible. By 2005, this is a president who was elected in 2002 with a massive popularity.
Yes.
Against the government of Kanu.
Candidate, yes.
2005, he lost a referendum. Right? In 3 years, he was so unpopular, his government actually lost the referendum. And then we go to 2007, and then we go to now after that, and that wasn't handshake, it was coalition government, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Today, when we look back, we all associate ourselves with the successes of the Kibaki administration.
Right.
But we don't remember
the ups and downs in between.
Ups and downs. And one of the most important things to remember is that he lost a referendum 3 years after he got elected. That means in 3 years, he was so unpopular, he had gone flat out.
Right? So how does that relate to
now
the president?
The context of that is, so we have President Ruto who is going into office now. If you're going to judge him, first don't judge him on popularity. right? Because once you get into office and you become president, I loved what Deputy President Rigathi said when he was talking to the ministers. He stops being your friend. Now he has to make decisions that are right rather than that are popular. So if he comes up with a finance bill that is going to squeeze people a bit because we need to pay debts, we need to sort out our cost of living, it's not going to be popular. And if you ask around, people are going, pana, we're not doing well. The guy is raising taxes, but we need to get those taxes so that we can cushion ourselves. And even more importantly, and this is something he talked about,
yes, please.
As he talked about when he was on Kiririmbi sometime on some show over the weekend, and he was trying to explain how he's dealing with the cost of living. He says something that I found very profound. 52% of the cost of living is food. Right? When we complain about the cost of living being high, it's 52% of that high is food.
Right.
So if you're going to reduce the cost of living, this big chunk of it, sort that. And how do you sort that? Where do you sort out food? You know, you can't do anything else about food except plant it. And plant it cheaply, harvest it well, make sure you have mass production of food, so you could put money into food production. Right. So how has he done that? He's done fertilizers, he's putting a lot of money into agriculture.
Right.
Now, as farmers in this region, or as business people, you know there's nothing that happens overnight.
Right.
So part of the reason why you see, especially, I mean, I'm listening to the studio and the guys are doing shouting, though I'm a bit disappointed in Muredi because he comes from here. And then we're all seated over here and us guys are on the same side. We understand that you can't get into government, especially in new government and a transition like this one, and you put the Bible down and prices come down.
Begin. Now,
it's not going to happen.
As we absorb that, let's get some feedback quickly as you can. They're telling us that we're out of time. Please give us a few more minutes, just a few. Gentleman at the far end, please, Mr. Mwai, I believe. Tell us what you feel about how things are going, real quick.
Wow. Thank you. I am Albert Mwai from this county of ours, a lovely county we love so much. And I'm happy, especially welcoming you in our midst here in Nyeri County. When we see you here, remembering that you have to come and ask us our views, you TV47, definitely we are very much grateful.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Thank you.
So, on the ground, my comments, let me start by remembering my mathematics teacher who taught me about minding the formula, not the sum, the formula.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, the teacher taught me how to get the formula. If I get the formula, though I will get something wrong finally, but I understand the formula of the sum, definitely sure I will be headed somewhere. This is the government. This is what the government is doing.
I like that. I really like that. I like it so much. I don't want you to say anything else. I want Kenyans to remain with that. Thank you so much. Madam, real quick as you can before we go back to Linda. Give us your views from where you sit.
Mase, mimi ningetaka tu kusema hivi. Ningetaka kusema our country is going well. Hata kama cost of living iko juu kiasi, our president is trying. Kama hakuna hii maandamano, alikalia ofisi, anzie kasi bila kusubuliwa, tungekuwa tumeenda pahali. Lakini vile tu ameanza kupanga ofisi, hata our MPs ama politicians wenye wamepewa ofisi, huwezi learn of your office with a week or 2 months. Lazima upewe wakati, uingie kwa ofisi, upange your ministers, your whatever, and then you start learning your country. Lakini huwezi vile tu umeingia, umeanza kusubuliwa, maandamano, sufuria kwa kichwa. Wananchi wenye walivote kuliko kwenda kwa chamba kulima, wameanza kuweka sufuria kwa kichwa. In fact, cost of living itaenda aje chini. Na tungeshukua majembe tuingie kwa shamba tulime, hii tupate mahindi, unga ishuke, tumeweka sufuria kwa kichwa. Nairobi hawana mashamba. Wanasumbua wenye wako mashambani, wamelima, kama sasa tuko na mahindi, tuko na waru.
Ndio.
Hatuna pahali pa kupeleka.
Kwa nini?
Saa yenye umepanga mizigo unapeleka Gikomba, Maligiti kuuza, ndio hiyo maandamano. Hakuna gari yenye inaenda.
Right.
Ushumi ndio hiyo imeshuka.
Asante
So
sana.
our president is trying and trying and trying.
I love this. I love this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good people, I appreciate you. Unfortunately, we've been informed that we are completely out of time. But this says one thing. It says that this conversation about where our country is going is a big conversation. It's a big conversation, too big to be able to cover, even in this humble show of ours. We appreciate all of you for coming. Thank you so much. Thank you absolutely for coming, and thank you for sharing your views and your insights. Asanteni sana kila mmoja, as well as to you in studio. I appreciate you for, and actually those of you at home, thank you for giving us your time this very cold evening. Thank you for paying attention to what we've been talking about. I hope you continue with this conversation with your fellow Kenyans wherever you're going. Take the lessons that you've learned. It's better to master the formula and let the sum take care of itself. And another example about making sure that give your significant other a chance to implement all the things they promised you when they were convincing or confusing you into coming into their lives. Let us consider all of that. Thank you so much from the great county of Nyeri, and specifically the Rare Central Hotel. We, the people here, wish you a good night full of God's blessings. My name is Victor Muyakane. I've been your host. Good night once again.
Victor, I couldn't say it better. Are you wounded lions that not giving the other party a chance to?
I agree, and let me say this with Mheshimiwa Wambugu and Mercy. Context is important. Lakini Mzee Kibaki wakati aliingia ofisi hakungoja. Wiki iliyofuata tulikuwa na free primary education. Wiki iliyofuata. Nataka Mercy akumbuke hayo. Pengine alikuwa na mtoto mwenye alisoma na free primary education. Wiki iliyofuata Kibaki akiapishwa tulikuwa na free primary education. Pia nieleze Bwana Wambugu, within that 1 year that he is talking about, Kibaki's first year, Kibaki had a balanced budget. Ndio sababu uchumi ukaweza kuendelea mbele. Sisi umpinzani tunawakumbusha hawa ndugu zetu na dada zetu, ukweli kama ungependa huu uchumi uimarike, there are some foundational things you must do. Na mimi nakubaliana na yule kusema you have to make some decisions that may be unpopular. Walakini niseme hivi. Wako Nyeri, kama wanataka kuja Nairobi, akianza safari hapo Nyeri, aende Kiganjo, aende Nyanyuki, aende Isiolo, hawezi fika wapi? Nairobi. Hatuwezi ngoja mpaka afike Isiolo tumwambie he's going or she's going in the wrong direction. Akifika hapo Kiganjo tunamwambia tafadhali turn right, uende Marwa, uende Nairobi. Na hiyo ndio tunawaeleza wenzetu. Nimalizie hivi. Na mwalimu huyu Mzee Mwai amesema kuhusu mwalimu wake, alimwambia get the formula ya hesabu. Hiyo formula, it will lead you to the right answer. Yeah. What is the formula ya kulete bei ya maisha, gharama ya maisha chini? What is the formula to bring down the cost of living? Bwana Mwai, it isn't down, and the senator knows it. Msema kweli ni KNBS. Bwana Mwai, suluhisho ama formula ya kuhakikisha bei ya maisha inarudi chini ni mwanzo serikali isiwe inachangia bei hiyo kwenda juu. The government must stop directly increasing the cost of living. Itaweza fanya hivyo namna gani Bwana Mwai? Kwa kufanya hivi, sio lazima uongeze expenditure ya serikali. Simama kwanza, poa kwanza, na hivyo ndivyo Mzee Kibaki alifanya. Mwaka wa kwanza, mwaka wa pili, mwaka wa tatu hakuongeza matumizi ya serikali, wala alitumia zile hela zilikuweko. Na hiyo ikawezesha wewe Bwana Mwai, ukikumbuka, pengine siku hiyo ndio ulipata kalon, kwa sababu bank zikakuta without government borrowing, yani serikali haikopi, bank zikawa forced kwenda kutafuta sisi Bwana Mwai kutupatia loni ndio tufanye biashara. Na hiyo ndio inafaa. Kuhusu maandamano, Mercy, maandamano imekuwa siku 3 ama siku 4. Bulete kuraego watagia ruhuho.
There you go. Gloria Roba, and you need to speak to the people of Bobasi constituencies so they also understand, yeah?
Listen, first of all, the budget cuts that have been there in this proposed budget are huge. Kwa hivyo hiyo maneno unasema ati kwanza usiongeze expenditure, We have even cuts on the expenditure. Right. We have budget cuts across all the ministries.
Perhaps you can help, you can tell the nation, budget has been cut from what figure to what figure.
I am the one who is known to interject.
And
you are now taking over.
And time is not on our side for us to get
budget cuts are there.
We agree
have
budget cuts. That we agree.
And we have a formula. We have a formula. It is called the plan. We presented it to the people. We presented our manifesto. We sold it to the people, the hustlers who are Kenyans in this country. They loved it and they voted us in. It is time to move on. Let me just say this. If you want to know the cost of living or the formula of the plan is actually working, you will hear that now Azimio is no longer talking about cost of living. They have now started saying open the server again.
But they are.
They have already
listen to me, including the server and the IBC.
Listen to me. Yes. If you want to know that the cost of living is going down and that the plan, which is our formula, is actually working. Azimio that was on the streets claiming that it was the cost of living, just allow me to finish, they are now back with the server. If you want to know that it's going to continue working, because in another 2 weeks, I will tell you, they will bring another whistleblower. I will tell you further that you can gauge the success.
As we sum it up, Senator.
You can gauge the success of William Ruto governor because they will move from the server. Now they talk about the server. They will now bring us back a whistleblower. Before you know it, they will be asking us, where is Jose Camargo? And I'm telling you, that is when you know that the real problem in this country is that we have a confused opposition that is not effective in playing oversight on critical matters because they are all over the place. All of them trying to get positions in power, trying to figure out how we're going to open the office of the opposition. The failed governors, where will they go? If we had an organized opposition, let me tell you, they'll be able to sit here and tell us, Finance Act, yes, you could have done this and that. This one is good, this one is bad. We are bringing a bill. There's not one senator that I sit with from Azimio who has brought a counter bill.
Fair enough, Senator Gloria Oroba. Jungle Rose says, of course, my MCA ndio alipotea sijawahi muona. This is according to the Twitter poll that we asked. Are the leaders doing what they're supposed to do? Well, the truth is that leadership will only satisfy those benefiting directly. That is according to Bushman. And on the other side, someone says, well, next question, please, perhaps to say that maybe they have not felt any impact. Another one says, very satisfied, Honorable Babu Owino. And a couple of responses. I'm sure George Maringa is on standby to tell us what the Twitter poll.
Put up a poll because
there is a poll.
No, listen. There is a poll. Not that one. Me, I was sent to Senate to represent women, and I wanted to know if women are feeling represented.
Can we say this is business for another day? Honorable Gloria Oroba, the senator, of course, nominated senator. Thank you so much for creating time to be with us this evening. And Mheshimiwa Derito Moreithi.
Cost of living is the issue.
Cost of living is the issue. And you've spoken about it today.
We have spoken about it today, and we'll continue speaking about it.
Thank you so much, Honorable Derito Moreithi, former governor of Laikipia County. Thank you so much as well. From the other side of Nyeri, my name is Linda Alela. I will cross over, or I'll send it back to George Maringa to tell us what the polls have to say as we sum it up.
Indeed, we have run out of time. We will not be able to go through all your comments, but the Twitter poll we post on our Twitter handle, are you satisfied with the leaders you elected in August 2022? 32% of you said yes. A whopping 50% of you said no, whereas 18% said you do not care. My name is George Maringa. Good night from Nairobi. The conversation continues online.